Today on Keep Alive, we're going to be talking about a very interesting mission of healing. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm William Lee, your host, podcaster, podcast producer, and the founder of the Kiba Agency for digital marketing. We want to unlock your digital media. Today I'm going to be talking about something that's really close to my heart, and that's our veterans coming back from the wars overseas. So today I want to talk about one of the biggest, I think, misunderstood problems that are being created by the war is a thing called PTSD. Our soldiers are coming back with a mental disability that we don't really understand or fully, at this time, I don't believe, have taken control of. You see, this is not a new problem by a long shot. I'm sure that people from World War I, World War II, Vietnam, I know for sure because I've talked to some of them, Korean War, and other military actions that have been taken overseas or military fights that have been carried out. A tragic situation that arises, and that's that mental scarring of each individual that has participated in war. Just recently, a good friend of mine and his wife have put together a foundation. It's the foundation that I think is a turning point in what I call out-of-the-box cure for helping GIs come home. The Mission of Healing is the name of the mission. It is founded by my good friends Pat and Trish Turnage of the Puyallup area. Pat, who has spent the last 18 years fighting for this country, is a veteran's veteran. I like to call him that because of the factor that he has dedicated his life and beliefs in the freedom of this country. When you talk to Pat, he's a very easygoing, always has a smile. But deep down inside, he too had to admit that the last 11 deployments really were adding up and causing some really serious problems for him and his life. You see, Pat came back from the last deployment from Afghanistan. He, I believe in my own heart, knew that he just couldn't continue to hide the emotional problems that he was having. I'm sure he knew that there was something wrong, and I'm sure that he tried very hard to put it aside, to try to figure out a way to just put the bad stuff in the closet and close the door, trying to change his memory of all those ugly things that he'd seen in 11 deployments, and all the tough times that he'd had throughout his life with the option of, where do I go? Where do I fit in now that I'm home? And what can I do? You know, it's pretty tough when you're a man to not show emotions. It's pretty tough to realize that men are set aside as the heroes. We're the tough guys. We're the ones that can take the blow. And as John Wayne would say, get up, Pilgrim, and let's get going. Reality of life is not quite as good as that, but that's the way that men are supposed to be. Men are supposed to be men. And when you fight in war, you have to set aside your beliefs. You have to change, I believe in my heart, from what I've learned from talking from those from different war time periods. You have to take the loving, caring, good-natured guy and put himself into a mode of a military machine who is set up to react and to act as per the mission training dictates. And that's really tough. Uncle Sam has a time schedule. They know that they have to protect this country, and they also know that war is war. But unfortunately, there isn't time to sit down and pull yourself back together. There's time between deployments to get ready for training and more deployments. So what happens after 11 deployments? Now, first of all, before we go any further, I want to salute Pat Turnage and his wife, because these are the military young people of today that are the leaders of tomorrow. There's no doubt in my mind. And what they're doing and how they're sacrificing themselves to make a difference through this foundation is incredible. But before we get into that, let me finish the story. Trish made this statement to me The last time Pat came home, she was laying next to the man in bed that she loved, but she didn't know who he was anymore, that he wasn't the same father, the same husband that he was when he left. Now, Pat realized, I'm sure in his heart, that there was something going wrong. And I know that they probably had terrible battles over, leave me alone, don't bother me, or... However, there was a difference in this argument. It was a pulling away, a fear factor, I believe, that was in Pat's heart. He loved his wife and his family, but I think the inside fear that I can't decompress, I've got to watch my anger, I don't want to take it out on them, drove him into drugs and other problems that became addictive. Now, why doesn't Uncle Sam, when these deployments are over, why don't they screen these people? Let's sit down and chat and get some idea of how you feel before you return home. Let's talk about it. Let's do an evaluation and see if there's areas that we can help you with so that your homecoming will be a good homecoming. I don't know, when I talked to some of the other veterans before this problem really came to the social media or even media's attention, what they were thinking. Now, one of my personal friends that I've known for over 45 years is a proud United States Marine Corps veteran who served in Vietnam. Now, all the years that I had talked with him, and we got to be very, very good friends, but never in the conversations was anything ever mentioned about Vietnam. He never mentioned his ranking, never mentioned where he had served at, where he had seen war at, when he was deployed, or anything else. I often wondered why. Until just a few years ago, when he was diagnosed with Agent Orange and found to be diabetic, he started talking about some of the trials and tribulations that he was going through with the VA. And it was quite an interesting story. Now, they were getting ready to evaluate him. The point came out very loud and clear when my friend looked at him calmly and said, "Have you ever served?" And the gentleman said, "Well, I'm military, yes, but..." "No, I asked you, have you ever served?" And the gentleman said no, he had never been deployed. And before he could get out in any more of the sentence, my friend looked at him very calmly and said, "I want you to understand something, that until you wear the shoes that I wore, you're never going to understand how I feel or how I think about war and what happened to me. So don't go there. If you haven't been there, then you don't know what you're talking about." And it was as simple as that. A lot of the Vietnam vets that I've run into have the same opinion. That's why I find that most of them, unfortunately, stick together and don't talk about Vietnam unless it's a quiet, simple bar somewhere or a VFW hall where they can sit and be amongst their own friends that know what it's like. In Pat's case, he has really never come out to us and said much about what it was like, but he did make something very interesting in one of his statements that he did give to me. And that statement was simply this: all these years, I've been just deployed to break things. Now, with the help of my wife through this foundation, we're not breaking things anymore. We're putting them back together again. Isn't that an interesting thought? Here, a military man of 18 years is explaining to a non-military person who has never served that for once he's putting things back together. And Trish found an interesting way to unite the families. Now, Trish has never been in the military, and she'll tell you that. But really, she has been. You see, this is the way I look at it. When a person signs up for the military and is married, the whole family is now signed up, because a military life is tough. So you see, to carry on and to keep that family going, the wife is a brave warrior. So I pretty well think that Trish is, without a doubt, I'm going to place her as a sergeant, because she has this, I think, the wonderful spirit and the fight in her to make this new foundation actually work. So here's what they're doing. They got involved with a religious organization called CUPS. And CUPS works around the world, from what I understand, doing really unique projects in rebuilding civilization in poverty areas. Helping kids was their first love, being able to give them the stuff that, we just take for granted over here, like clean drinking water, shelters, food, clothing, education that they don't have to work for, giving them an opportunity to express themselves and to understand what the world is all about. You see, in many countries, they don't have that opportunity. Kids are just, whoops, there they are, run to the orphanage, or they're dropped off, neglected, starving, and I can go through a whole horrible list that I don't want to do right now. But CUPS gave Pat and Trish an opportunity when Trish came up with an idea after going overseas on one of the CUPS projects. She came up with this strange idea. She came back so full of, I guess, appreciation and love and understanding. Yeah, that's what I said, understanding of what goes on in poverty areas and how simply little things that she could perform and do, feeding kids, playing baseball with kids, being a good friend. It was really touching to her and for her family. And Pat found out quickly that he could not just blow things up, but he could actually put things back together again and change lives in a positive, loving fashion. So when they returned back to the United States, all of a sudden she felt that God had spoke to her and said, hey, there is something more that you need to do. And she came up with, I think, the most incredible plan ever. And that was taking vets, these that have been deployed, that are having troubles understanding how to get back to civilization, how to become people again, as far as I'm concerned, instead of war machines, how they could change and open their hearts again. God gives us children. Isn't it wonderful? And when they're little, they're very, very special. When they get older, it's okay. But they're special when they're younger. And they have a way of looking at you that really breaks down all the barriers. So when the foundation had an opportunity to put together 10 individuals that have suffered or are having problems with this PTSD, they found that taking them on a trip to a foreign country to help serve kids and families in poverty-stricken areas, there's just a whole unique classified civilization of luxuries that they don't have. They're lucky to have clothes on their back, a warm meal once a week or twice a week or whenever they can find food, and somebody to care for these children. Now, why would you take a bunch of vets over there that have gone through war, breaking things? Why would you take them over there? Why would you, with the big heart that Trish has, share this with all of these people in this village, with the strength that Pat has to push forward and to give a helping hand up? Not just a helping hand, but a helping hand up. Why would you want to do something like that? Because what would be the after effect? Oh, I'd just be 10 days of being totally worn out from physical labor. But hey, a military, I've gone through that before in deployments. No, that wasn't the picture at all. When you see the stuff that Trish puts on Facebook and the social media platforms, you'll know what the progress was and the healing that has started. When men can come back with a feeling of accomplishment, when they can, in their own group, discuss and talk and communicate and let feelings out without being overshadowed by, oh, you can't say that, or you can't believe that. When they get to actually communicate with each other and understand the feelings that they have about what's happened to them, and how a little kid, a little girl or a little boy, or maybe an elderly gentleman who they have helped recreate his home or his church, or maybe they've done just a simple thing like build a fence or start a project of building in a community. When you see that and they come home, now they are whole, and they're starting to regain that wholeness that they need and require to become good dads and husbands again. And it's because of Trish and Pat simply figuring out that love, that's it. God's gift is love. Love for humanity, love for each other. Not this cold-hearted, I would consider it, demonship that has struck many of the countries of the world.